Gary Payton II, the son of NBA Hall of Famer Gary Payton, is undoubtedly a crucial part of the Warriors roster. But did you know there was a time when he wasn't even considered a good player by the Warriors? Let's take a look at how the Mitten got to where he is today, along with some other NBA news right now. Gary Payton II's beginnings. As the son of an NBA Hall of Famer, Payton choosing basketball as his career of choice came as no surprise really to anyone. Ever since he was a kid, Payton had all eyes on him, with many having extremely high expectations out of the son of a legend. He played college basketball with the Salt Lake Community College and Oregon State basketball teams from 2012 to 2016. His college performance was fine, but it was nothing to write home about. He listed himself for the 2016 NBA draft, but unfortunately, he was left undrafted. With no team willing to draft him, Payton II looked towards being picked by a team. Eventually, he signed with the Houston Rockets before being acquired by the Rio Grande Vipers of the NBA G League. The following few years, Payton II seemed seemingly trapped in the G League, playing for teams like the South Bay Lakers and the Raptors 305 as well. From 2016 to 2021, Payton had played for 5 different teams. He wasn't really seen as a reliable player at all. However, in 2021, it seemed like Payton finally had his big break at the age of 28. After signing a 10-day contract with the Golden State Warriors in April 2021, he was once again approached by the Wizards to sign another 10-day contract. After some decent performances, Payton II was finally signed as a member of the Warriors roster. Why he got cut from the roster? Now, as great as signing with a main NBA team may have been for Payton at this stage in his career, it seemed like that was as good as it was going to get. The Warriors had too many players before the start of the 21-22 NBA season, and as a result, they were about to waive a few players from the team. Unfortunately for Payton, he was one of the 3 that ended up being waived. Now, this was some pretty devastating news for anyone who wanted to see Payton II succeed in the same way his dad did, but I guess his performance wasn't as good as the Warriors had hoped. However, just a few days later, the Warriors announced that Payton II would be back on the team as a reserve, which was a financial move by the Warriors, not necessarily an indication of Payton's talent. At this point, Payton had to prove himself every time he got a chance to play, which early in the season was pretty rare. Payton II rarely appearing in any games at all, and every time he did, he barely got a few minutes of playtime in, not nearly enough to actually prove himself somehow. So, how he managed to prove himself? Despite not being used much early in the season, Payton II was now a full-time member of a major NBA team, albeit a reserve. As the season progressed, Payton II's rare appearances became seemingly less rare. The time he was allowed to play slowly started increasing, and as he started to get more time to prove himself, his performance started to improve as well. Now, before he signed with the Warriors, Payton was barely averaging, say, around 3 points a game. He wasn't completely useless, but he was far from an asset to the Warriors. However, as he started to get more playtime, his average started to improve. In the past 8 games for the player, he's averaged well over 8 points per game. Now, while this isn't an MVP-level performance by any means, it has solidified him as a valuable asset to the team. Ever since the Warriors started to use Payton more than ever before, they've started to dominate the court. Their performance has been extremely good for these past few games, and they've, on average, had over 36 points on their opponents per 100 possessions. This number is almost unheard of, and while the team overall has played a huge role in achieving this feat, it's important to note that Payton was one of the players that helped to make this possible. In the past, Payton wasn't given many opportunities by any team to make a name for himself beyond just his father's accomplishments. For the first time, a team has put its trust in Payton II, and as a result, he's proven himself to be a valuable player. Who knows, in the future, Payton might just surpass the accomplishments of his father. It is a bit early to say, but Payton is still young, and now that he's proven himself, he might just become one of the Warriors' greatest prospects. Covid-19 outbreaks, spooking NBA teams. Now, most of us thought the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic was far behind us, but the NBA hasn't looked this bleak because of the pandemic since it first began. With the new variant making its waves across the world, the NBA has not been spared by it. There have been outbreaks reported all over the NBA, and now many teams have become handicapped with the number of players that have been placed on the official protocol. The NBA COVID-19 protocol prevents players from playing many of the matches, and in some cases, any matches at all. Players on the protocol are going to be given booster shots for the vaccine. Those players who refuse the vaccine, looking at you, Kyrie, will have new restrictions placed on them. Previously, vaccinated players were not required to get tested at all during the season, but now all players must undergo rigorous testing. The Brooklyn Nets have been one of the teams worst affected by the new NBA protocol. At least 8 different players have been placed in the protocol, including Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, 3 of the team's top players. The Boston Celtics have also been badly affected by the protocol, with 6 players being placed on the list, including Al Horford. Now, in any case, if a team has fewer than 8 players available to play for them, their games will be postponed. Other top players on the list include the likes of Giannis, Zach LaVine, Reggie Bullock, Anthony Edwards, and De'Aaron Fox. Steph Curry, one of the players that have been spared by the NBA's rigorous protocol, said he supports the decision despite the Warriors being affected pretty badly. Curry stating that we're not invincible and the odds are everyone will be affected at one point or another. Having the right protocols are essential in making sure that we're all healthy. It's definitely a difficult time for NBA teams as well as the NBA in general. The 21-22 season was supposed to be the first season since the pandemic began to bring back the same level of normalcy we're all used to, but it seems like that won't be the case this year either. Houston Rockets waive Daniel House. So the Houston Rockets have been undergoing some major in-house changes as of late, and at a time when most teams are worried about not having enough players due to the protocol, the Rockets are worrying about having too many, specifically too many players that they don't really need. Daniel House is practically a veteran for the Rockets at this point. The initially undrafted player found a home for himself with the Rockets in 2018, and despite sporadically giving us a few great performances, it seems like the Rockets didn't value him as much as everyone thought they did. Unfortunately for House, he ended up being waived by the Rockets December 18, 2021. Now, this decision comes after James Harden and Russell Westbrook had already left the Rockets in favor of other teams, making the Rockets go into panic mode. So the Rockets are focused now on rebuilding their team, but that also means having to let go of some rather reliable players like Daniel House. House has been out with an injury as of late, yet it seems like the Rockets didn't really want a player that was just injured on their time at a time when they've been struggling with their roster as a whole. So that is a wrap for how Gary Payton II became a crucial part of the team. Do you think Payton II has got more to offer at this age? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one, and we'll see you in the next one.